Hi, welcome to Season 2 of the Inspiration Lab podcast, where you get to listen in on my conversations with inspiring women about personal and professional topics that will bring you uplifting stories that will melt your heart, teach you how to wrap your goals in grace, or perhaps light a fire in your soul to create the things that you wish existed. I'm Stephanie Lanier, your host, and I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to Season 2 of the Inspiration Lab podcast. I am really excited to start this season with Melissa Tyson, who is my friend and a jewelry designer and a goldsmith. And I love jewelry, as you can see if you are watching this video. And if you're listening, then just imagine lots of sparkly things on me and on Melissa. We're really excited to kick off the season. And Melissa, if you will, just really briefly introduce yourself and tell them a little bit about your business and you.
All right. So I'm Melissa. I have been a goldsmith and jewelry designer for over 20 years, and I absolutely still love what I do. I'm a mom of 3 kids and a wife, and this is all sort of a part of my world.
Yes. And so, we could just start by tell me about what you do kind of day to day in your business. I know that you're creating jewelry, but you primarily do engagement rings.
Yes.
Is that kind of your bread and butter?
Absolutely. Primarily engagement rings, and I focus all on custom design. So we work with clients every day. So I'm the lead designer. I'm doing all of the custom design, sourcing the diamonds, helping people kind of navigate their way into their dream ring. So it's a bit of a process to kind of uncover that with people and help them to understand what it is they're actually asking for. So I spend a lot of my days actually talking one-on-one with clients and designing with them.
And when you say that, I love the idea of like a dream ring, because you and I have been through this process together, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But how clear do you think most people are about their dream ring?
Some people are 100% clear when they come to me. So some people know exactly what they want, and we just, it's a very, very quick process. Some people just come with a handful of ideas, like, oh, I think I want something around a 2-carat size. I think I want something in a pear or maybe a marquee shape. So they kind of come with a little bit of a looser idea. Maybe they don't even have a full understanding at all, and they just know that they want to have something unique. So they want something different. They don't want a cookie cutter ring from the mall jewelry store. So they come almost with no ideas. So we kind of have a variety of the ways that people come to us to get a ring designed. And then, we just, have different ways of taking them down the path of discovering what it is that they actually want.
And I think one of the things that's really important, or at least I think part of the process, is putting something on your hand.
Yes.
Because everybody's hand is shaped different. It feels different. I think most people, maybe not most people, but certainly if you're, this is the first time that you're going to get married or wear a ring, it's a different kind of experience to have it on your finger. And actually, it's one thing to see it in a picture. And we actually talked about this. Tell people about this, because this was like a secret sauce that you and I talked about. In those magazines, the rings tend to be really much bigger because they pop in the pictures than what you actually on your hand. When you're putting it on your hand and like wearing it, you're like, wow, this is kind of like a skating rink. Can feel that way.
Right. Yeah, so I think, what you see in publications, they do put the biggest rings on the model's hands because they photograph really well. But I think in realizing what you actually like on your hand, so you can come in and try things on. And some people come in for one thing and leave with something completely different. That happens all the time because you do feel differently once you see it on your hand. But then we have, maybe 75, 80% of our clients are virtual. So when they're that way and they're just coming to us from imagery and videos and pictures and things like that, I usually send them on a homework assignment in whatever city, state that they're in, just to go and actually put some things on their hand. And I always tell them, I'm like, it's not going to be exactly what you want style-wise, but you just need to see about the carat weight and the shape on your hand and just sort of pull your hand back and squint your eyes and just, try to imagine. That's how, I send people out for homework assignments when they're virtual clients.
Yes.
To get that visual, because it really does make a difference.
Oh, I think it makes a big difference. And I feel for all of you with tiny fingers like I have, because the things are always spinning around and it's like the worst because you can't hold it tight on your finger to like hold it out, because it's just, it doesn't want to stay still. It's hard when you have small hands. And nothing is size small enough. I swear, you gotta like get it resized a bunch of times. But one of the things that I love that you do, and you've done for a ton of my friends, is they can bring you like their grandmother's jewelry or their auntie's jewelry, and then you sit down and redesign it into something really beautiful. And I think that that's such a special thing to do, because a lot of times these settings or the way that these rings were designed either don't fit the person, it's not something they would wear every day. But I'm sure that that's a really meaningful thing that you enjoy doing.
Oh yeah, outside of engagement rings, which is sort of being a part of that big milestone moment for people, is the heirloom recycling, because it is super sentimental for people because they have such an attachment to the jewelry or to the person that gave it to them, but they don't like the style and it's just been sitting under their bed collecting dust because they're never going to wear it as it is, but it is so meaningful and it was such a treasured gift that was given to them, and it reminds them of the person. So when we get to transform, we'll recycle the gold and reset the diamonds and then make it something that they can actually have on their body and wear, and then it just keeps the memory that much closer on the day-to-day. So it's actually can be worn, but it's just in a new form.
Yeah, in such a cool way. I mean, I'm thinking about my friends and the different things that you've done, and they're just so awesome. And I'm like running them around at events. I'm like, look at her hand. Look at what Melissa Tyson did. It's just fun because I think people sometimes have this pile of jewelry and they don't want to give it away or sell it, but they don't know what to do with it because
Right.
it's just not something they would wear. It's not a trend or something that, feels like them. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that that's a really cool thing that you do. Going back to sort of engagement rings and trends, I mean, I'm thinking about people's budgets. What are the things that you're seeing right now for 2023 and 2024? I know there are timeless things, of course, but what are you seeing current brides do? I mean, back when you and I were getting married and engaged, like,
Yeah,
it was just a diamond.
right.
That was it, and that was kind of the only choice. And really, people went to the mall. Is that why you started your business? Or, I don't know, take me back 20 years ago. Is it 20 years? How long have you been in business?
Well, a few more than 20, but
Okay.
we'll call it 20.
20 plus. 20 plus.
Yeah, we'll call it that. I think because I've always had a love for jewelry, even since I was a little kid. My mom had a ton of jewelry. My grandfather was always giving her gifts of jewelry. My dad gave her gifts of jewelry. I mean, jewelry was just I always remember being a kid going to the jewelry store with my mom because she was always getting something new. So, I've always been around it my whole life and always been very artistically driven. So it wasn't until I got into college and had a professor that was teaching a jewelry class and thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. And then she's like, oh, come take my jewelry class. And I did. And literally the minute that my hands touched metal, I was like, that's it. This is what I want to do. And so I just knew.
I love that. Like, that just sort of gives me chills. Like, that's
In
just
that
so
moment,
cool.
it was like, that's it. This is it. I've found exactly what I'm made for. And so, originally, though, I was doing really big pieces, like big wearable body art type of pieces, like
body, like, say more.
I mean, big stuff, like big wearable body art. And I realized this was when I was in college and when I was taking my jewelry design classes, and I was like, this isn't necessarily marketable. Like, I'm not going to be able to make a career out of this. So I kind of really loved to combine sculpture and jewelry or body art at that time. And so when I needed to make a living after I got out of college and graduated with this wonderful degree, I realized that jewelry was a much more marketable craft. So I just sort of scaled everything down and just treated it like little tiny sculptures for people's hands.
Yes. And I think that, I don't know exactly how you pronounce it, but where they're like two stones together.
Mm-hmm. I don't pronounce it well either. It's a French word.
Yeah.
Toi moi. I think
Good.
sort of like that. I always say it wrong. I'm not
Sure.
very good at French.
But good. At least I made you say it. But there was one on your website because I was like reviewing it where it's like it was 5 carats, maybe the total weight. I don't know if like each, but the stones are so beautiful, and that looked like it was a custom design that you made. It was just so pretty, and I feel like that looked like a sculpture to me that somebody's wearing on their hand somewhere, and it's just beautiful.
Yeah, most of the pieces that are on the website are all pieces that were custom made for someone. So none of them are available. We have a very small collection that's actually available at any given time. because everyone wants something different. They're like, ooh, I want this shaped stone, and I want it to be this carat weight, and I want it in this color gold, and I want to turn it this way instead of that way. So everyone has sort of like their own flair that they want to put on the styles, but it's just a good spot for people to start. But I would say probably, like, I think you asked me about the trends that I'm seeing
what are
and
the
kind of
trends?
where people are at.
And what stones are they? Salt and pepper. I mean, and there's all kinds of stuff now. Lab created. You
Yeah,
got
I would say probably the two most popular right now, kind of running neck and neck, would be salt and pepper diamonds, and probably it's a toss up between lab and moissanite.
okay.
So people want big stones now, and they want it for a lesser budget. So that's where the moissanite and the lab diamonds really are great for people now, because people don't want to spend as much money on an engagement ring as maybe in years past. Like they used to say, I think you needed to save up 3 months of your salary to be able to buy an engagement ring. Well, that's not really the case anymore. So you can still get an incredible ring that's heirloom quality, but within any budget range,
Right.
which is really nice.
It is. And I think that, I told you before we started recording, I've been listening to lots of jewelry podcasts because I love jewelry too. I get to sell houses, which is also a really fun thing. You can't collect as many houses as you can collect rings, but you can put your rings in your houses, which is great. And one of the things that a lot of people are talking about when on these podcasts is, what is the difference between lab and diamonds and then salt and pepper
Yeah.
and why would you buy one or the other? And sort of the idea is like it's a different consumer for each thing,
Correct.
and why you
Absolutely.
would choose one thing over the other,
Right.
and what you would do with it, I think really depends. But I think budget is a big,
It's huge.
it's huge, and where you're coming from when you're thinking about a purchase, and then I think it also depends on what you're really the look that you're after as well, because if you really want a big stone and you've got a smaller budget, then there are different ways that you can get that look
That's
without
true.
having to spend,
That's right.
And then there are other people who really want a diamond from the earth.
Absolutely.
And if you want that, then you're going to pay for that, because right now, especially with the situation with Russia, like that is not going to be cheap,
No. No,
and
no.
that's where salt and pepper diamonds might be an option for someone, right? Like that is less expensive.
Correct. They're a lot less expensive than a brilliant cut white diamond. However, they're very different. So the beauty of the salt and pepper diamond is the visibility of the inclusions. So you have all these black markings and all these like pepper speckles and all these different things inside of the diamond. Some people call them galaxy diamonds because they look like outer space. When you look down inside the stone, to me, they look like a little painting. So they're not for everybody, but they are definitely for the unique bride to be, and someone that wants something completely different, but also still wants an earth mined diamond. They're probably about, I would say, a third of the price of their natural brilliant white diamond counterparts. So they're much less expensive. So you can get a much bigger diamond, still natural earth mined, but it's going to have a very different look than a brilliant white diamond as well. But
then-
people really love that.
Right. And I think that if somebody's coming to you, they want something different and unique
Correct.
anyway. Like,
Absolutely.
of course you could go to a mall or to,
Yep.
one of these places where if you want to get something very, maybe not even traditional, but something popular, you want
Correct.
a popular ring that maybe
Yeah.
other people have. But if
Right,
they're
right.
coming to you, they're getting something that other people wouldn't have. And then lab grown diamonds are diamonds.
They are chemically the same composition as a natural diamond. However, they're man-made. So they're made in a laboratory. And again, they're about maybe anywhere from, it depends on the diamond, but they can be like a quarter of the price to a third of the price. I mean, they're much less expensive in comparison to a natural diamond. So a lot of people go with labs for the ethical component, because they are not mined out of the earth, and the fact that they can get a much bigger diamond for a much lower budget.
Right. They are marked, right? Like when so
Yes.
if you go to sell that in 10 years or something, when you go to a jewelry store and they look at it under the microscope, that's where they can see it. It's not,
Yeah.
if you're at a cocktail party, there's absolutely,
No.
I mean, nobody would know, but it's just what the value of it and how it will be valued in the future is really the difference.
Correct.
With
Yeah,
the
they're not going to
lab.
hold their value the way that a natural diamond is going to
Sure.
hold its value over time. I mean, a natural diamond is just going to appreciate over time, not greatly, but it will. It's not going to lose its value by any means. Whereas a lab diamond, because they are man-made, the market is kind of getting saturated. So yes, it is pushing the price down. So it's not going to have the same long-term heirloom value, but it's more of a sentimental value. And they all are laser inscribed, and they're all certified just the same way that a natural diamond is. So you have all of the paperwork and everything with a lab diamond, just like you would with a natural brilliant diamond.
Right. So, and that's why I think like it's such a different consumer, right? Because it's
Right.
like if you just want the look and you want a diamond, great way to save money. If you're
Great
a
way.
person who's just like, look, I want to have this in case times get hard,
Yeah.
and in 10 years I need to go like return this thing. That's a real different mindset, right? Than somebody who's like, I just want to look, but I want it to be a diamond, you know?
Right.
So I think there's so many different ways to come at it and to think about it. But that 20 years ago when I got married, well, 19, when I got married, there was just, these weren't even remote options,
No,
right?
not at
Everyone
all.
was getting a diamond of some sort. My engagement ring was from Andrew's grandmother, which was a wonderful thing to have, something that is essentially a family heirloom, right?
Right.
But it was a diamond of some sort. Period. End of story. That came out of the
Yeah.
earth, and probably most of them were blood diamonds. I mean, let's be honest. Like they were certainly not coming out of the earth in an ethical way.
No,
And
not
then
in
it was
that
just like,
time.
how do you want it set?
Right.
You know, I mean, what
Yeah.
that was period. End of story. What you got. Nobody was having an opal engagement ring, or
No.
you know,
No.
I saw a pearl engagement ring that you had on your website, which was really cool. I mean, you know, it's fun to see people doing different things. So I just love that. Let's talk a little bit about the sort of anniversary. I saw on your Instagram, it was like, what do you think about someone saving up and then trading in their ring or doing something different on their anniversary and doing it themselves? And are you seeing some of that people are doing that on maybe 10-year, 20-year, like
5 year, 1 year? I mean, yeah.
girls like, look, I don't know about, I know about my man. I'm not sure.
He did the right ring. Yep, that does happen, and it happens a lot. So, guys, just have the conversation with her and ask her what she wants. Don't just assume that, you know, she wants a 4-prong solitaire from the mall. She doesn't. So let's just say that. But yes, I mean, people, it doesn't, you don't, your styles change. Your
Yes.
tastes change. You grow. You evolve, and there's no reason why your jewelry shouldn't as well.
Yes.
So because it's so sentimental, and guys put so much attention and they put so much of themselves into buying the ring. Sometimes the men are more attached to the ring than the women.
Oh,
so
that is a truth bomb right there.
yeah.
Yes.
So, but what I try to gently kind of help them to understand is it's going to have the same sentimental value if we change the look of it. And it's still going to be what you gave her. Or, you know, a lot of times people just want something completely different.
Yeah.
And that's okay too. You know, I have a couple of clients that maybe have redone their ring 5 or 1 up to maybe 10 times. So,
you mean the same stone?
oh, no. New
No,
stones.
she's just
new
she's
rings.
just
Just
like-
switch them out by the day of the week. You know, I mean, it's just like, why have to have one ring for the rest of your
it
life?
is, right. You have the same partner, you have
Right.
the same person, but you're like, why? I'm going to wear this thing every day of my life.
Yeah, and still love it the way that you did when you first
Right.
got it, because you won't. I mean, your
Right.
your style. I've changed my ring multiple times. You know, it's okay.
Of course you have. I mean, you have an argument for that. But yeah, and I mean, when we, you know, for you helped me design this for my golden anniversary, which is like, if y'all don't know what that is, it's like if you were married on the 5th, it's your 5th year. And so when Andrew and I were married on September 18th, so it was our 18th anniversary, and I was like, oh, this is a fun one. But I feel like it took me 18 years of marriage and of me to figure out who I was and like what I
Yeah.
would design. I feel like I was 22 when I got married. I knew what was cute then, and I knew the trend, which was what was in Bride magazine. That's probably what I would have picked if I
Sure.
didn't get his grandmother's ring. Now I know, because I feel like at the age of 40, I'm like, I know who I am, and I feel really
Right.
confident with what I would want, and I want this colorful stack, which is a very specific choice.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of times for people or for women, it takes a long time to figure out kind of what you want. And for some people, it's like a cigar band, maybe with no stone at all. Like it could be something totally different. Or
Right.
maybe your life changes. You're a nurse or you're a mom where something that's sitting super high up is
Oh, yeah.
getting caught on everything. Who
Yeah.
knows? I just think it's really interesting and fun. And I'm super grateful that Andrew understood, like, hey, look, we still have grandma's ring. We're not changing that because that's a whole family thing.
Yeah.
But I really love the idea to sort of have something that's colorful and fun. And when people talk to me about it, it's great because I get to talk about our marriage and our wedding and about your business, which I love supporting. And I think that's a really fun and empowering thing to do. And I sent you a million different pictures and screenshots, but it was really neat to think about a dream ring stack really, but pulling all these different ideas together and making it your personality versus just like whatever you're seeing out there. But I
Yes.
think it takes sometimes time. I did at 22. I had no idea.
No idea. Yeah.
No, I was just happy to I was like, oh, I'm just so glad that like I'm getting married, period. And there were so many choices. You're like trying to plan a wedding, figure out your house. Like it's hard. But when
Yeah.
you have time to just think about this one thing, I think it's a lot easier.
Yeah. And it's easy for me to see, like, when people come to me like that with like a whole list of pictures and images, and they're like, I don't know what I want, but I like this and I like this and I like this and I like this. I'm like, show me everything that you love. Just show me all of it at one time. And takes me about 5 minutes to
Yeah.
pull the common thread out of every picture. I'm like, oh, you want an oval. You want it probably around 2 carats. You want a salt and pepper diamond, and you want it set in yellow gold. We need a prong setting. Like I can just dial it down
Yeah.
because this is what I do. I kind of decipher people's dreams out of what they bring.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I see the common thread. They're like, I don't know, these are all so different. I'm like, no, actually they're very, very similar. And this is what you want.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
that's fun.
I bet that is fun.
Yeah.
Do you have a fun engagement story or like love story or something that's happened recently that's cool or interesting that you can think
Gosh, so many. No, that one puts me on the spot. I can't think. There's
like
just
so many.
There's so many. I mean, I work with hundreds and hundreds of clients, so
Yeah.
it's like but some of them actually do become friends. So that's really fun. So some people will stay with me through the journey. Like they'll send me wedding pictures. They'll send me their first baby picture. They'll get a push present. They'll add for an anniversary. So I get to sort of track with people's journeys. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that there's like one specific story that is like a total standout story right this minute, but just being able to be in relationship with my clients and sort of from engagement and like all of these milestone moments I get to be a part of. And some of them just send me, pictures just for fun to show me
Yeah.
along the way, not just because they want another piece of jewelry even. So it's really a beautiful thing to like build relationships with clients over the years.
Yeah, well, you're like such an intimate part of this special thing, especially if people are, designing the ring, because even the ring stays with you. The wedding event,
Yep.
the photos stay with you and the ring stays with you, and that's about it, because you eat the cake after 1 year if you even kept that, because people aren't really doing cakes, although they're making a comeback. I love a wedding cake.
Oh,
I love when
yeah.
I'm at a wedding, I'm like, oh, I'm glad this is coming back. But I mean, the ring and the photos are the things that stay with you, and the photos you look at your house. But what I was telling you as I was thinking about this episode is like, I love jewelry because you take it with you.
Yeah.
It travels with you. It goes everywhere with you. And, this necklace that I have for my grandmother who passed away, who I was so close to, and I've written a lot about it. She wore this necklace almost every day, and people ask me about it a lot, and I love being able to tell them it was hers. But I think about, there are quilts that her mother, my granny, made, and I'm not going to carry the quilt with me. You know what I mean? I can't carry like my blankie around. That would be weird. But jewelry you can wear, you can take it with you, and
Right.
it's on your body. If it's earrings, it's in your body, and it's such a special thing. And I think that's why it is so powerful, and it's really cool. And I was on a trip to Switzerland this summer, and I was in a museum, and I just thought, I mean, there's jewelry on everyone going back from the first paintings that were in this museum. It's
Yeah.
just part of human history. We've been wearing jewelry since the minute we were able to make it
Right. Absolutely.
out of something, right? It's so core to who we are as people. And I think sometimes people think about jewelry as being like extra, you don't need it, or it's just, do you know what I mean? Like it's not important. And it's just so fascinating to me, like from the very beginning of time when they dig up these ancient civilizations, it's there.
Absolutely.
Might not look exactly like it looks now.
Right.
People were making rings, they were making necklaces, they were making earrings because they told
And they
a
were
story.
adorning themselves with
Yes.
it because it's a way of expressing yourself and just kind of like your clothing that you wear. But the jewelry stands the test of time. And then it's something that you can actually pass down generationally, which is also such a beautiful thing because, your clothes may or maybe not, I mean, they might last for a generation, maybe one,
Maybe.
but jewelry is going to last for multiple generations. Even if you do change the form of it, it's still something that it lives on after you do.
Right. And I think that's what makes it so special and so unique. And we don't, in my family, there's not a ton of jewelry that's been passed down. So it's really cool that there are these, my grandmother had a few things, and it's really nice that there are those few things. And especially because she really enjoyed them and wore them, it makes it even more special. It wasn't just in a box. Like,
Right.
it's something where in a ton of photos, she had it on, and I have these memories of her. And I think a lot of people have that, like, if your grandmother wore a ring or had a necklace on all the time, it wouldn't even matter how expensive or fancy it was. It's just the memory of that person.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's such a special thing. One of the things I wanted to ask you about is Paris Fashion Week.
Ooh.
Speaking of dreams,
Yeah.
you posted, you were
Speaking
teasing us
of.
on Instagram, and you were like, I have this big announcement. And I was like, if you were moving from Wilmington, it stressed me out so much because I was like, what are you going to say? I don't know why my mind moves to like people like leaving town or doing something. Or I was like, maybe you're going to travel the world for a year, which I'm fine with that if you're coming back to literally my brain was doing all these weird things. And then you were like, Paris Fashion Week. I was like, great. I'm so happy for you.
Yes.
But tell us about that. Like, what does it mean for you? Like, are you putting jewelry on people or
Yeah.
like, okay. So tell everybody about that.
Yeah. So that one sort of came out of left field. Was not anything that I ever even imagined could or would happen. I mean, I've always been kind of fascinated with high fashion and, got featured in Vogue about, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago. And, so
When that happened, what did you just like lay on the floor? Like, what happened when that call came or when that moment happened?
I mean, I did think maybe it was fake. I did think that. I thought, and my sister's like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "I don't know." I mean, and I was like, "Can you please call me? Like, I need more than an email about this." And and I got the call, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is real! Like, this is actually happening." It was probably one of the bigger milestone moments for my career.
Yeah,
definitely. So fast forward, to now, and then getting the invite to Paris Fashion Week. I mean, just not even on my radar, not even something. Being in a high fashion magazine, that was on my list of dreams from 20 years ago.
Yes.
That was always there, that was there. But being on the runway was not. It didn't seem attainable, like
right.
not
It's
even,
just beyond
it's
something.
beyond. It's even beyond like being in a fashion magazine, like beyond that. So yeah, it's been kind of like this weird buzz feeling, for like the last 6 months because we've been sort of keeping it under wraps and knowing that it was happening and, and it's now like a month away. So it's really super exciting.
So you will go, and are you paired up with a certain designer? Or
Yeah, so I'll be paired with a clothing designer, but the beauty of it is the stylist is just going to put me with a clothing designer, so I can design completely freely, and I don't have to design for a specific thing or a specific look. So it's just given me a minute to dream again because I do spend so much time focusing on other people's dreams and designs. So this is giving me a minute to just design for the love of designing again.
Yeah,
and just
so
be
fun.
totally free with what I create.
And then you'll take it all with you, and then when you're
Yes.
there, y'all
8
kind
models.
of have fun.
Yep, I'll have 8 models to put on the runway and
Earrings, rings.
anything, head
like
to
all
toe.
the-
Yes, I could as much or as little as I want to. So yeah, it's going to be really fun.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
And so also you're freed up from, because you spend so much time on rings too, so it's kind of freeing you up to
Yes.
think about other kinds of jewelry as well. So
Yeah.
that's
yeah.
going to be so fun. I can't wait to see all the stuff you
I know.
come up with.
Very
And I mean,
exciting.
Paris is Paris.
Yeah, I know. I'm really, really excited. I haven't been since I think my college days to Paris. So this is going to be, it'll just be I think it's one of those things that it comes along once in a lifetime and, I'll never forget. It's it's sort of like maybe before Paris and after Paris,
It's like the pinch me, like the whole thing.
Yes,
It's
the
just
whole
like-
thing. Like, is this actually really happening? Yeah, I think, yes, it is.
Yeah. And you just have so much gratitude for things like that,
So
where you're
much.
just like, this is,
So it's such an amazing opportunity. And of course, I'm taking my whole family because I take them everywhere
Yeah.
and I want them to experience it with me, because this isn't just about me. It's I want my kids to see it and I want, my husband to be there to share it with me. And so I'm taking the whole fam.
Well, and they've been on the journey together. Like that's one of the things I wanted you to share on the podcast was, kind of your lessons learned as a business owner, because being a small business owner is not easy.
Yeah.
It's really hard, and there are sacrifices not just for you, but for your whole family.
Right.
And it's fun to have these milestone moments, but they come at a cost, and there are sacrifices that have been made. So it's fun when everybody gets to come to the mountaintop, but everybody's been to the valley too.
Oh, absolutely.
And everybody
they see behind the curtains.
Mom, they've seen mom with your hat thing on, with the lamp and the light, and sweating it out. And I'm sure that you have lots of happy brides, but I'm sure you have some difficult ones, and the times where you have to really push through. And I think that it's nice to share those kind of highlights. But what are those lessons that you have learned for people who are in business, like the encouragement? Because I don't know, there are times where I'm in it and I'm like, whew, this is, it's tough.
Yeah. I think for me, because I've been doing this for so long, and because I knew at such a young age what made me come alive and what I wanted to do, that it's been the long race for me. And I never really imagined these types of things happening early on in my career, but I never stopped. So, I've worked really, really hard for a really long time, and I have definitely paid my dues. And, and it's like, I think sometimes when people kind of look and they see, oh, you're going to Paris Fashion Week and you were featured in this magazine. And I'm like, yeah, well, that was like 15 years into my career for, these things starting to unfold. So I think just being very faithful to what you've been gifted to do, and not,
which, can I pull out two things in that? Because I think it's good. Is first of all, like, what makes you come alive?
Yeah.
And then, like, where were you 15 years ago?
Oh, yeah.
Because that's helpful. I mean, I want people listening. Where were you 15 years ago? Some of y'all were, like, in middle school or, like, elementary school. So that's helpful. I always say that to, like, people in real estate on my team when I'll get a listing or something will happen. And I'm like, hey, where were you 10 years ago? Because I was just starting.
Yeah.
So, like, that's part of this stuff. It's not overnight. You got to, and I think when you do roll it back to think about what you were doing, if you were in the industry, okay, but I think it's helpful to be like, wow, that is a really long time to be consistent, like consistency over intensity.
Absolutely.
Just this kind of boring, but consistent, working with excellence at the same kind of thing, because it does look on the outside sometimes like these things are happening really fast, and they're not.
Not at all.
But I think if you're doing the thing, to go back to your first point, that makes you come alive, that you just love, it's not hard to stick with it because you want to do it faithfully, because you love it.
Because you love it, and I still love it, and I'm going to love it until the day that I die. Like, I don't think there's ever going to be a time that I'm not going to love creating jewelry. Like, it's just so much of a part of who I am but like when I started out, I knew that I wasn't going to come out of the gates making a living making jewelry. So, I had 2 or 3 other jobs. And so like starting out for me, I knew that this was what I wanted to do. I knew it was my passion. I knew that I was called to do it, but I also knew that I couldn't support myself on it.
Okay.
And I didn't want to go into debt. So that was very, very important to me, to have other means of supporting myself and paying my bills. But I never stopped making jewelry in the meantime. Yeah. So, I would be up until 2 or 3 a.m. because I would get done with my other job and I would go to making jewelry in my garage studio that didn't have air conditioning, and we live in Wilmington. I mean, let's be real. There was a lot of very hot evenings in the studio. I did have power, so that was nice. One little light, and I would put a bowl of ice in front of a fan to cool me off, because I mean, I'm on hot torches and I'm bending over my bench, and it's just like I'm pouring sweat and I can barely see what I'm making. There were definitely some rats in the studio. I mean, I contended with some things for 10 years, but I loved what I did. Right. I mean, I would just wear my platform boots in, because you never know what was going to be scurrying about in this old garage that I was working in. And so, I mean, these are the things, but it didn't ever deter me. And once I realized that it was something that I could make a living at, and I started making more money making jewelry than I was at my other jobs, then I quit doing those things and went full time into making jewelry. And thankfully, I've never had to look back. And so, I've probably would say I've been doing it full time now for about 20 years.
Yeah.
Which is pretty amazing, but it's been the long game. It's not been
Yes.
a quick overnight success by
Right.
any means. And not that I ever needed success. That was never my goal. My goal has always just been to create jewelry for the love of creating it and to make joy for people's hands and to, just doing something that I love every day. That was more the goal than being successful, I guess.
Well, and I think that that's, as we wrap up, I think that's such a great takeaway for people, which is like nobody can take your dream from you.
Yeah.
Whether you're like in the garage at 2 a.m., sweating it out, needing to have a bowl of ice to fan
In front of
yourself.
the fan.
Like if you want
worked
it that
pretty good.
bad, it's going to work out for you
Yeah.
if you don't quit. But you can't teach that to someone and you
Right.
can't, that's an internal fire. And if you have that, it's going to be okay.
Absolutely.
It's going to be okay
Yes,
for
it
you.
will.
It may take a long time
Right.
and you might have to do those side hustles. I do think if you're not a slave to debt, sure does help.
It helps
Having
a
that
lot.
freedom makes a big difference. And you and I are on the same page about that. But I think that that's like that is the comfort I take too. When you know that you're operating in your calling, when you know that you want it that bad, that you're willing to do that work, I think that there's such power in that. And when it brings you such joy, there is, I don't know, that's what keeps you going through the hard times. So thank you so much for coming on. This has been such a treat and such a joy. And thank you for your friendship.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Yes. All right.